us with the information that we need to determine why the failure occurred.
Authorities say some 60% of all gas main explosions are the result of construction accidents, where a backhoe or some other piece of equipment strikes and damages a pipe. The other 30%, they say, are the result of corrosion from either water or chemicals in the soil. As a result, investigators are performing soil samples and reviewing construction records, and have even called in the FBI.
Obviously, you've got an unexplained explosion of great magnitude, and there's always the possibility that that explosion was caused by some malevolent act, and therefore they're taking a look at it, and I appreciate it.
Meanwhile, the one part of the investigation that has been completed is the use of dogs searching for human remains. This morning, the dogs made one more pass. No evidence of anyone being trapped in the fire.
I know for myself, I personally feel real comfortable with it, and I feel real confident. There are two good dogs on our team that we used today and yesterday. They're specialized, especially in cadaver recovery, and they didn't find anything.
Still, town officials continue to work diligently to track down every resident who is unaccounted for, and they are doing it by any means possible.
We contacted, by using investigative means, located employers of people and spoke to their employers. Basically, we've used every technique we can.
Now, to update some information with regard to those dogs, they told us earlier they would not go out again with the dogs, but this afternoon they did go out one more time for a couple of reasons. Number one, they have bulldozed the area in many locations. That has disturbed the scent. They wanted to go back and be sure. They wanted to go back one more time. The other concern is perhaps some residents in a state of fear ran out in the woods, could be injured, could be in a state of shock. They wanted to look through the wooded area around this apartment complex to make sure there was nobody who was still out there, anybody in need. As for the length it might take, the time it might take to get the answers in this investigation, they say it's very much like a plane crash. They have to put together this pipe piece by piece. They have to look through a tremendous blast area to try to recover those pieces. They tell us they could not have an answer, may not have an answer in this investigation for up to 9 months to a year. So we've got a long process underway, but they are making some progress. The big news is they are down to just 5 apartments where they have the residents who have not been accounted for. That is the big news. We'll update you at 6 o'clock if we have something better to pass on.
Okay,
Channel 2 News is live at the command center here in Edison. I'm Ren Scott. Let's go back to the studios in New York.
As I said, some encouraging news from there. Thank you, Ren. Dana?
As Ren said, many people are still homeless from yesterday's explosion, now wondering where are they going to go, how are they going to get a roof over their heads, how are they going to start their lives over again. Today they got some good news. Channel 2's Vic Miles is live at Edison High School, one of the shelters. Vic?
Yes, and news just in fact, less than an hour ago, a spokesman for Texas Eastern Pipeline Company, Mr. James Hart, said they're going to be putting up everyone in a hotel by tonight. 18 people slept here last night. They'll be in hotels by tonight, according to Texas Pipeline, and they'll keep them in those hotels for 7 days. Now, during which time, they're going to try to meet all of their individual needs. They'll be in conference with them, and they'll see what they need. It sounded like the beginning of an effort to settle up with the victims of Durham Woods. Now, when asked how much Texas Eastern planned to spend on the relief effort, the spokesman said, and this is a quote, "as much as it takes," unquote. Now, meantime, the Red Cross and other voluntary agencies have been providing for all of those in need here. There are clothes here for those who fled the flames, fearful for their lives. And there's nourishing food, special care areas for little kids, places to sleep. And then there's help, too, for those who've lost the hard-to-define stuff of life, the intangibles that help us define ourselves.
Even the sentimental things that, you know, wedding albums and stuff like that, it's just, they're gone.
Darnell Tolliver, 30 years old, married 6 years, a manager for a computer leasing business, with a wife of 6 years, 2 kids, 2 cars, and up till night before last, a large 2-bedroom apartment. Today, he's a displaced person with no way to cope with that blast, the inferno that's blown his world to pieces.
I want back what I once had, you know. I wish I could take back and take the day before the situation happened, but that's gone.
And by no means is Darnell alone. There were dozens of folks lined up this afternoon trying to cool down, salvage their accustomed state of being from the devastation that is Durham Woods. Volunteer counselors tried to help.
My recommendation is that you don't make any decisions today or tomorrow, that you allow the shock to wear off, that you allow the resources to begin to help you, and then make major decisions.
Things are made worse for the displaced by the prolonged waiting to get back into the stricken area to see exactly what and how much they've lost. Edison's mayor, George Spidoro, came under fire on that subject.
I want to help myself, okay? I'm not asking the Red Cross to do nothing that I can't do for me.
Okay.
At this moment,
Madam, I don't have the legal authority to permit you to go into your apartment.
Well, you can't escort me for 5 minutes. You got thousands of people over there investigating. And it takes 5 minutes for me to go in my apartment and get my pocketbook.
In the meantime, the outpouring of support here in Edison and from the Red Cross has been overwhelming. All the clothes and all the food and goods they can use. And so now they're asking for checks for the Disaster Aid Fund. That would be the way to help if you want to in Edison. Channel 2 News is live from Edison High School. I'm Vic Miles reporting back to the studio.
Yeah.
Vic, I just want to say, let's just make that clear. The Red Cross wants money, no more clothing, no more goods. They want money. They say that's the best way to help.
That's right. Now, to try to build up their disaster relief fund, which has been depleted for the many disasters we've had this year.
Okay. Thank you, Vic.
All right, we have seen some incredible video from the Edison explosion over the last 2 days, but now you're about to get a bird's eye view in pictures shot by an airplane passenger. This happened just seconds after the pipeline blew. Now listen now as the pilot explains to the passengers what he thinks they are witnessing. Watch.
Newark's coming up off the left-hand side. You can see out the window there the fire. That explosion just happened about 60 seconds ago or so as we were approaching from the southwest. It's a refinery fire, and as I said, it just happened just about 60 seconds ago. But thanks for flying with us. Hope you enjoyed the ride. Just point the flight attendants, please, and prepare the airplane for landing.
Bird's eye pictures right there. It's just seconds after that pipeline blew. The American Airlines flight was on its way from Dallas to Newark. Ivan Minnow, the passenger who shot the home video, says that he didn't know what really happened until he woke up yesterday morning.
Wow. A lot of people in Edison woke up today determined to show that their community really can cushion the blow for the explosion's victims. They're pulling together and making sure that their neighbors know they can count on one another to pull through.
Everything. They need everything.
As shell-shock survivors try to recover from the traumatic experience, friends and relatives are pitching in to help, like Kathy Lozano, searching here through piles of donated clothes for a friend whose family lost everything.
I have a friend, and she has a little girl, and so I'm just getting clothes for the baby.
A grandmother's kindness is also being called upon to help a daughter in need.
Yeah, that's what she got me over here looking for some clothes for. She got a 3-year-old daughter, then she has a 12-year-old son and a 7-year-old son.
The mounds of donated clothes are testimony to the giving spirit of a community thrust together by a tragedy that's made friends out of strangers.
I just feel really bad for those people. I mean, you know, I just wanted to help in every way I could. Hey, it's in my own school, and I ought to show up.
Here at the shelter at Edison High School, students are doing double duty. Whether folding clothes or serving food to the hungry, they're helping out wherever they can.
That could have been us, and if that happened to us, I would want all these volunteers to come down and help me survive it. You do all you can. I made some kid over there smile, and it felt good.
The smiles of these children are proof of the high school students' Good Samaritan spirit. Yesterday, they were crying. Today, laughter. These littlest survivors have already put the past behind them.
Many times we don't give our young people a lot of credit for the kind of things they are capable of doing, and in times of needs, they step forward.
As for those left homeless by the devastating blast, one area hotel is opening its doors in kindness, providing housing for displaced families as well as Red Cross workers working round the clock during this emergency.
It feels really good. I mean, when the people were walking around, they were, in their underwear and stuff. They were disoriented. It was a really tragic thing. And, we decided to help out and do what we could.
He's from the Clarion Hotel, and the Clarion Hotel is not alone. Other inns are also offering accommodations to those left homeless. If you still need a place to stay, call the American Red Cross. They'll have a listing for you.
You can see people opening up their doors and their hearts to help out. Let's tell them more about the Red Cross today. The Red Cross put out the word that it's taking donations to help the explosion victims. Now, you can mail your check to the Red Cross at 900A Woodbridge Center Drive in Woodbridge, New Jersey. Now, the zip code is 07095. Make sure that your check is made out to the Red Cross and note that it's meant to help the victims of the Edison disaster. Dana?
More to tell you tonight on Channel 2 News. Coming up, the federal government's new war on smoking is bigger than anything ever tried before.
And later on, the feathers really flew when a chicken truck crashed. We'll tell you what happened and you'll see it. Plus, Howard Stern's run for governor may be running into some serious interference. We'll have the story on Channel 2 News coming up.
Thank you.
Former heavyweight boxing champion Mike Tyson has failed a test that could have sprung him from prison 3 months early. Tyson failed his high school equivalency test at the Indiana prison where he is serving a 6-year sentence for rape. He has to wait now 90 days before he can take the test again. Tyson won't be eligible for parole for another 14 months.
Former auto driver you love.
Good evening once again. I'm Ernie Anastas, and we want to give you the very latest now on yesterday's pipeline explosion in Edison, New Jersey. Both Governor Whitman and the federal government today declared Edison a disaster area. 37 people still haven't been heard from since the explosion, but officials say that there is no evidence that they were killed. And as hundreds of survivors tried to get their lives back to normal today, the Texas Eastern Transmission Corporation announced that it will provide shelter for refugees for at least a week. Dana?
One man who's been up nearly round the clock to try to deal with his town's disaster is Edison's mayor, George Spadoro. He joins us live right now with more on what is being done to recover. Thank you for joining us tonight, Mayor. With the news of the Small Business Administration declaring Edison a federal disaster area, people can now get loans to try to put their lives back together. Any idea how long does it take to actually get money in hand?
Well, we've already announced the opening of an Edison Disaster Relief Center, at which the SBA and other federal and state agencies will be there to help the people. My understanding is that there's going to be every effort to meet their immediate needs beginning 9 a.m. tomorrow morning.
Good.
You're getting an awful lot of support out there. I know the Red Cross is pitching in, a number of private companies. Just give us a little bit of an overview. We've had a number of reports on today as to how the community is coping and just what's going on.
Well, you're exactly right. There's been an extraordinary outpouring of support from our residents, from the emergency management team that's been put in place, neighboring communities, and some of the major corporations and small businesses in the area. It's been a team effort, and I have to say the 2,000 people who were evacuated, almost everyone has had most of their personal needs met, and we're very confident that we're moving towards getting many of them back in their residences, hopefully by the end of the day tomorrow.
Mayor, it's such an emotional time. We saw earlier in Ren Scott's story one woman asking you a question. She was obviously angry and just wanted to get back into her home. What words of encouragement can you tell them? How soon can they get back?
Well, first of all, I want to let those people know that I understand the tremendous stress and upset that occurs when you're dislocated like that. We're doing everything in our power to move the process along, to get the appropriate legal authorization so that they can move back into their apartments. And of course, we're working very hard to deal with 150 to 300 people who have been permanently deprived of their apartments. This team, I believe, is going to help these people and hopefully within short order have them back home again.
We have been calling this a miracle. It almost seems that that's not enough. I mean, it's more than a miracle considering, you know, what could have happened out there yesterday. Perhaps, Mayor, you could just give us a little bit more information. We have had reports about the 37 people who are still unaccounted for. Tell us about that, any information you have. And I know that the federal government is out there. The inspectors are working on the cause of this. And tell us if there is anything that you know right now that you could share.
Okay, first of all, I want to let you know that we've narrowed it down as of about an hour ago. There are just 5 apartment dwellings for which we have not heard from the residents of those dwellings. And we're working feverishly to contact individuals, relatives, family members, employers of those people. All signs are that we're going to locate these families, but we haven't spoken to them yet. And we're cautiously optimistic that there will be a miracle, because if you've seen photographs of that site, it's hard to believe that there wasn't one fatality at the location of those apartment buildings.
And it'll be months before we know what caused that, right?
Yeah, it appears, regrettably, that that's a problem. All of my 100,000 taxpayers and residents in Edison want to know whether there's a risk of this happening again. I've had conversations with the federal investigators and with the owners of the pipeline, and they tell me it may take a matter of weeks or even months to get an answer.
All right, Mayor George Spadoro, Edison, New Jersey, thank you so much for your time tonight. Good luck getting things back together.
Thank you very much.
All right. You've been hard-pressed to find a section of North Jersey that isn't crisis-crossed with pipelines like the one in Edison. Well, right now, John Slattery has more on the silent neighbors so many